Welcome to Channel 13, where we'll be bringing you daily content around the world of horror. Today I'll be bringing you my horror soft spots, part 1. This is where I'll be bringing you 5 films that I just have a real soft spot for. And the first film on my soft spot list is Sleepy Hollow. Now, this was a film I watched a million times when I was younger, and I feel that the generation that came after me might have let this one slip. Directed by Tim Burton, starring Johnny Depp, Christina Ricci, Christopher Walken and Christopher Lee. Johnny Depp plays Ichabod Crane, who has to travel from New York to the Westchester County to investigate a load of beheadings. Now, Ichabod Crane does not believe in ghosts and ghouls, however, he does run into Christopher Walken's The Headless Horseman. This film was set in the turn of the century heading into the 1900s, where the Headless Horseman didn't hold any prejudice against age nor gender. There was an uneasy scene where a child actually escapes under the floorboards, and you think the Headless Horseman has missed him, but he actually reaches through the floorboards, grabs the kid out, and following up with the fact that Ichabod Crane found out that a pregnant woman had the child inside of her belly decapitated also added a whole new level of feel to this film. And come on, it's Tim Burton, what more can you want? Leading us into the second film on my soft spots of today, and that goes to something that's going to make me start to think that I've got a real thing for decapitation, because it's Hereditary. This is a 2018 film directed by Ari Aster, and I'll be honest, I do not feel for 1 second that this film is 7 years old. The death of a mother can be traumatizing at the absolute best of times, but imagine her ancestry secret coming back to haunt you after her death. This film does have a slow start, but as it starts to get into it and you see a certain that I'm very happy with, obviously. The film then does start to pick up some pace, and it is worth the watch. With some great twists and turns, this film will keep you completely invested, especially as you go into the second half of the film. Everything picks up, and it is glued eyes all the way through from there. I did recently see that someone said that this is the best horror film in the last 15 years, and I disagree. However, this is a fantastic film. It is worth your time. It's worth a watch, but I wouldn't necessarily say the best in the last 15 years. Film number 3 is Clive Barker's 1987 Hellraiser. In 1986, Clive Barker wrote the book The Hellbound Heart, and just a year later turned it into a film. And before we proceed, I have a huge confession to make. I only watched this film for the first ever time last year, 2024. So apologies, I was late to the party, but boy did I not expect what was going to happen next. From a possessed box to supernatural alien demons, this was not what I had in my mind at all. Pinhead is an iconic figure. Everyone remembers what that spiky-headed, white-faced man looks like. But in my head, I thought this was going to be like a torture film or some sadistic cultist. It definitely took me down the rabbit hole slightly. It is bonkers, it is ludicrous, it is crazy, it is typical for a 1980s horror film in terms of cinematography, but absolutely fantastic. If you haven't seen it, do go and check it out. It's well worth the watch. It's probably not what you expect. Now, if I told you number 4 was a film about a sexually transmitted ghost and I fucking loved it, would you believe me? It Follows is a 2014 film written by David Robert Mitchell, and as I said, a sexually transmitted ghost was not what I was getting myself in for or saddling myself in. However, that's what I got, and it delivered. Generally thought going into this was going to be some silly, far-fetched, what the fuck film, but it wasn't. It was brilliant. The supernatural element was really good. The story of how they sort of have to combat this ghost is absolutely fantastic. It delivered on so many cylinders for me, and I actually thoroughly enjoyed it to the point where I have to include this in my soft spot films. Number 5 is going to probably be a little bit less known, but however, this is a 2003 film directed by Alberto Corredor. It is Baghead. Me and my partner giggled our asses off at the name of this film, and we don't even know why. We'd be walking past each other for weeks after watching it, just going, Baghead's coming to get you. The film itself is set in Berlin. It's about a Scottish man that owns a British-style pub in Germany. Of course it is. And deep down in his cellar, he's got Baghead, a supernatural being that is very creepy, has supernatural powers to be able to contact the dead and give people a little bit of time with the loved ones they've lost. The film is actually set around the Scottish man's daughter, who inherits the pub, unfortunately due to his timely death. But in his wish video, he tells her not to interact with Baghead. But where would the fun in that be? Of course she interacts with Baghead. And then she goes on to use her power for financial gain, only to find out that really Baghead's selling her down the river for her own personal gain. It's a little bit weird, but I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I love the setting, I love the story, I even love the silly Baghead. That is all from me, Miller, today at Channel 13. Please comment below if you've seen these films and what you think, and if you have a soft spot for them too, or you really didn't like them. Follow Channel 13 on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. where you can get daily content from myself and Glenn. Thank you very much for joining me today. Please keep interacting with us and giving us your opinions and your takes on the films that we're talking about. Tomorrow, you can join me for 5 films that I hate to love.